it's like I'm a loner, bro. I do better and come up with shit better, and I make money, do a lot of shit. I do everything better, bro, just being by myself.
Like left foot, right, wet foot, dry foot, high foot.
You be having your mind what you want to do, but like you be having to figure that shit out. You gotta fuck up so many times and fuck up, and then be like, okay, I really didn't fuck up. I just taught myself. You know what I'm saying? And like, okay, now I got this shit. You know what I'm saying? And it's just. Bitches, rocking grass and jerseys, like, you know, I gotta get it.
Play one stand, I'm a rap.
It's something that means a lot to me. Like, it's a card from my aunt, and it's just, she said some real meaningful words in here. So it's like, when I get down, or when I feel like I'm against the world, and ain't nobody understanding me, don't nobody get me, nobody in my corner, I had to remind myself, like, I got real love. So I keep this with me, and I read it, like.
Young Dolph donating to his former high school, giving out turkeys by the hundreds for Thanksgiving, and standing 10 toes down for his city. JuiceWRLD, writing full songs in record time, blending freestyle and emotion with melody. And Key Glock, reaching the upper Billboard 200 with his first album and creating a sound of his own. 3 artists of mainstream success, but from different origins with different stories. How are they connected, and what are their stories? Plug in and let's explore.
Initiating information transfer. Processing facts and data. Data successfully converted. You are now plugged into Collide Wire.
1985.
On July 27th, Adolph Robert Thornton Jr. is born in Chicago, Illinois, having 2 sisters and 2 brothers. He would only see his parents once every few weeks as they were dealing with addictions to crack cocaine. Therefore, he was predominantly raised by his grandmother.
1987.
Adolph's family moves to Memphis, Tennessee, which Adolph is known for representing as his home, which Adolph Thornton Jr. is known for representing as his hometown. He related to peers in his community through his upbringing, as many of them were also raised by their grandmothers. He credits her for a lot of the guidance and advice he ended up using as he grew up.
1997.
On August 3rd, Markevius LaShawn Cathy is born in South Memphis, Tennessee.
1998.
When Markevius is almost 2 years old, his mother is sent to prison for a 15-year sentence, and having only occasional visits from his father, he is raised by his grandmother and aunt. On December 2nd, Jared Anthony Higgins is born in Chicago, spending his childhood in the south suburbs, often playing at Calumet Park.
1999.
Adolph attends Hamilton High School, also becoming a barber on the side.
2001.
At 16 years old, Adolph turns to the streets for income. His grandma would occasionally let homeless friends of his stay with the family, though she rarely let him have friends over other than this. Jared's parents divorced at this point, leaving him to be raised by his religious conservative mother that didn't allow him to listen to hip-hop, but rather rock and pop music. He then discovered a lot of the music he listened to through the Tony Hawk Pro Skater games and Guitar Hero. He was also a heavy drug user during his childhood.
2002.
At 4 years old, Jared learns to play the piano.
2003.
Adolph graduates from Hamilton High School.
2008.
Adolph's grandmother passes away from lung cancer. Due to encouragement from friends, he then releases his first mixtape, Paper Route Campaign, under the alias of Young Dolph. After seeing its local popularity, Dolph decides to fully invest himself into rap.
2010.
Young Dolph formally establishes the independent label Paper Route Empire, and soon after releases his first mainstream mixtape, Welcome to Dolph World, on July 2nd, which features 2 Chainz when he was still going by Boy. Jared tries lean, or promethazine codeine mixed with Sprite, for his first time in the 6th grade.
2011.
Dolph releases the mixtapes High Class Street Music on May 7th and High Class Street Music 2 on November 8th, developing a unique flow of his own that he became exclusively known for.
2012.
Dolph releases the mixtape A Time to Kill on April 6th, as well as the mixtape Blue Magic on November 14th.
2013.
Following multiple projects together with Atlanta rapper Gucci Mane, Dolph and Gucci released the collaborative mixtape East Atlanta Memphis on March 15th. On May 13th, Dolph releases the 3rd installment of the High Class Street Music series titled Trappin' Out a Mansion. On October 15th, he releases the mixtape South Memphis Kingpin. Jared moves to Homewood, Illinois during his high school years, attending Homewood Flossmoor High School. He also begins using Percocet and Xanax this year.
2014.
Dolph releases the mixtape Cross Country Trappin' on April 15th, and his son Trey Thornton is born in June. Then he releases the fourth installment of the high-class street music series American Gangster on July 8th. Jared, during his sophomore year, begins messing around with the guitar and drums, playing the trumpet for his band class.
People talking stupid. That's okay, we on the same page. Everybody's mad, everybody's sad and outraged. The freestyle game crazy. I'm finna make it insane.
2015.
Jared posts his first song, Forever, to SoundCloud under the alias JuicetheKidd, the alias being inspired by the Tupac Shakur film, Juice. The songs he records at the time are made using his phone before being posted to SoundCloud. On February 9th, he releases the mixtape, What Is Love, peaking at number 2 on the Billboard 200 and becoming certified platinum. Dolph releases the final fifth mixtape of the high-class street music series, The Plug Best Friend, on February 24th. On June 30th, he releases the collaborative album, Felix Brothers, with Gucci Mane and Pee Wee Longway. He also releases the collaborative album, Bagmen, with Pee Wee Longway on July 15th, and on July 28th, he releases the mixtape, 16 Zips. On October 8th, Dolph releases the mixtape, Shittin' on the Industry. Markevius, at 18, is charged with 3 counts of assault relating to his involvement in a shooting.
Run it back. Fucking with the wrong nigga. Been back on the show.
2016.
On January 31st, Juice releases Juiced Up, the EP. On July 6th, he releases the EP Twilight Zone. Young Dolph releases his debut album, King of Memphis, on February 19th, peaking number 49 on the Billboard 200. This happens to be offensive to Memphis rapper Yo Gotti and Black Youngsta, leading to some looking for Young Dolph, and the diss track, Shake Some, being released in response. On May 26th, Markevius releases his debut mixtape, Whole Lotta Everything, and begins going by the alias Key Glock. Dolph also releases the mixtape Bosses and Shooters on May 27th, and the mixtape Rich Crack Baby on August 26th, debuting at number 132 on the Billboard 200.
I just bought with like another diamond chain. I always buy stuff. Like it don't mean nothing to me though. I just buy it just to buy it. I don't even like talking about it.
2017.
Dolph releases the diss track Play With Yo targeting Yo Gotti, releasing a music video 2 weeks later in February. The next day his car was shot over 100 times in Charlotte, North Carolina, but the car had bulletproof panels so no one was hurt, and he even performed later that night. This inspired his song 100 Shots. He also releases the mixtape Gelato on February 3rd and uses the shooting for promotional purposes. On February 17th, Juice releases the EP Affliction. Young Dolph then releases his second album Bulletproof on April 1st, peaking number 36 on the Billboard 200. On April 12th, Juice releases the EP Heartbroken in Hollywood, 999. He also quit smoking cigarettes during his senior year before graduating from Homewood Flossmoor High School. He also begins working at a factory, but being dissatisfied with the job, ends up being fired within 2 weeks of starting.
That shit was so depressing though.
Dolph's daughter, Aria Ella Thornton, is born in April. After joining the collective Internet Money, Juice releases his debut EP, JuiceWRLD 999, on June 15th, featuring the song Lucid Dreams. He also signs with Lil Bibby's record label, Grade A Productions, this year. On June 16th, Key Glock releases the mixtape, Glock Season. Dolph then releases the collaborative EP, Tracking Number, with Burner on August 24th. On September 26th, Dolph is shot 3 times outside a store in Los Angeles, California, spending only 2 weeks in the hospital to recover. He then releases the album Thinking Out Loud on October 20th, peaking at number 16 in the Billboard 200. Dolph also signs fellow rapper and cousin by marriage, Key Glock, to his label this year, and learns in the second half of the year that he is actually second cousins with the rapper JuiceWRLD. On October 29th, Juice releases the EP Binge Drinking Music. On December 22nd, Juice releases the EP Nothing's Different.
So what we're gonna look forward to in 2018?
Going harder, going bigger, going stronger.
2018.
Juice signs with Interscope Records for $3 million. On February 1st, Glock releases the mixtape Glock Bomb, peaking at number 101 on the Billboard 200. Dolph releases the EP Get Shot Every Day on February 16th, debuting at number 59 on the Billboard 200. On May 23rd, Juice releases his debut album, Goodbye and Good Riddance, peaking at number 4 on the Billboard 200 and becoming certified 5 times platinum. In June, he releases the EP Too Soon in honor of Lil Peep and XXXTentacion, rappers who recently passed away. On August 8th, Juice appears on Jimmy Kimmel Live. Dolph then releases the album Role Model on September 21st, peaking number 15 on the Billboard 200. On October 19th, Juice releases a collaborative mixtape with Future titled World on Drugs. It debuts at number 2 on the Billboard 200 and becomes a certified double platinum. On November 23rd, Glock releases the mixtape Glockoma, peaking at number 34 on the Billboard 200.
You know, you'll be well off without that person, whoever the fuck they may be. You know, they from the struggle, or they don't see your worth type shit until it's too late.
2019.
On March 8th, Juice releases his second album, Death Race for Love, debuting at number 1 on the Billboard 200 and becoming certified double platinum. Juice's father passes in June this year. On July 26th, Dolph releases a collaboration album with Key Glock titled Dumb and Dumber, peaking at number 8 on the Billboard 200 and becoming certified gold. On December 9th, while aboard a flight, law enforcement intercepts the flight JuiceWRLD took to Los Angeles, finding 72 pounds of marijuana. And I'm told by passengers that there were a lot of prescription pills aboard the flight as well, but Juice took them to prevent them from being discovered. Juice then suffers convulsions and a seizure before getting 2 doses of Narcan delivered. He is then transported to Advocate Christ Medical Center, where he passes away. His funeral is held on December 13th at the Holy Temple Cathedral Church of God in Christ. The two said to the story are that he took a lot of the pills in an effort to keep them hidden from law enforcement, while the other is that it was just a coincidence, as he already had a drug problem anyways, and it was just the timing.
What you mean? Like you got all 3 of them cracked and you got to get one of them repaired?
No, it's a hard decision though, bro. God damn.
2020.
Juice's first posthumous appearance is on the song Godzilla on January 17th off Eminem's album Music to be Murdered By. On January 22nd, a post is made to Juice's Instagram page by his family and Grade A Productions, thanking fans and confirming their intention to release more music that Juice was working on at the time of his passing. On January 31st, Glock releases his debut album Yellow Tape, peaking number 14 on the Billboard 200 and becoming certified gold. On February 28th, Juice makes another appearance on PTSD, the title track of G Herbo's album, also featuring Lil Uzi Vert and Chance the Rapper. On March 13th, a remix of YNW Melly's Suicidal featuring JuiceWRLD is released. On April 17th, the song No Me Am, a multilingual collab between Juice, Jamaican record producer Russian, and Puerto Rican rapper Annual AA is released, with an AI-generated image of Juice as an angel appearing in the background of the music video. On April 24th, Juice's first posthumous single, Righteous, is released. On May 22nd, Glock releases the mixtape Son of a Gun, peaking number 34 on the Billboard 200. On July 10th, the album Legends Never Die is posthumously released by Juice, debuting at number 1 on the Billboard 200 and becoming certified double platinum. Early in the years, rumors spread that young Dolph is considering retirement to spend more time with his children. However, on August 14th, Dolph releases the album Rich Slave, peaking at number 4 on the Billboard 200.
What's that?
A Cheeto, literally a Cheeto.
A who?
A Cheeto, like a hot Cheeto.
How it look like a gun?
You saying it's selling for $94,000 for what?
Because it looks like a dog.
I wonder how many
What is it?
Cheetos I ate.
Are you saying it's an art? That's a painting?
2021.
Dolph and Key Glock release a follow-up to their last collaborative album, calling it Dumb and Dumber 2 on March 26th, peaking at number 8 on the Billboard 200. The album's cover art is inspired by Beavis and Butthead. On May 28th, Juice's first album, Goodbye and Good Riddance, is re-released with 2 new songs. On July 30th, a compilation album featuring Key Glock is released by the Paper Route Empire called Paper Route Illuminati. It peaks at number 22 on the Billboard 200. On November 5th, Glock releases the album Yellow Tape 2, peaking number 7 on the Billboard 200. On November 17th, Dolph is shot 22 times while visiting a bakery he frequented whenever he was back home. He was then laid to rest on November 30th with a service at the Calvary Cemetery across the street from his high school. There are currently 3 suspects in this case, one of which with charges of aggravated. On December 10th, the JuiceWRLD album Fighting Demons is posthumously released, peaking at number 2 on the Billboard 200. On December 16th, the documentary JuiceWRLD Into the Abyss is released on HBO Max, highlighting his struggle with mental health and substance abuse.
These my floss picks. I'm not talking about just floss picks. They gotta be scope floss picks, the green ones. If it's not green, and if it's not a scope floss pick, I'm not putting it in my mouth.
2022.
The album Long Live Young Dolph releases posthumously on January 21st, as well as his final album Paper Route Frank on December 16th, peaking number 22 on the Billboard 200. On November 18th, Glock releases the EP PRE5L, standing for Paper Route Empire 5 Life, peaking at number 190 on the Billboard 200.
Now you also said that, I thought I heard you say that you weren't going to drop anything this year, you were focused on something else.
Right.
That's what you kept saying.
Right.
What was the other thing that you were focused on?
Something else.
2023.
On February 24th, Glock releases a Glockoma 2 album, peaking number 13 on the Billboard 200 and becoming certified gold. In June, a suspect in Dolph's shooting gets a plea deal, pleading guilty to 3 counts of accessory after the fact in exchange for having conspiracy to murder charges dropped.
It's the best crowd yet, or what you think?
Maybe, maybe not.
Maybe not.
2024.
On September 9th, an EP by Juice, The Pre-Party, releases, and on October 14th, an extended version of the EP releases. On November 29th, Juice's final album, The Party Never Ends, releases, peaking at number 4 on the Billboard 200. On November 30th, a virtual version of Juice performs a virtual concert in the game
Fortnite,
alongside virtual Snoop Dogg, virtual Eminem, and virtual Ice Spice.
Dolph, of course, like, he had a big influence on you all around, but performance-wise, did he give you any gems on that?
Really just told you just have fun, like just be yourself, just do you. Yeah.
2025.
On March 13th, Glock signs a deal with Republic Records. On May 2nd, Glock releases the album Glockoma, peaking at number 8 on the Billboard 200.
I was in a room with Mike Tyson. I don't even think I approached Mike Tyson. Not like on no scary stuff or nothing, but I just don't want to rub him the wrong way because
In conclusion.
3 different stories from 3 different angles, but all touching the same space: legacy, resilience, and transformation. Dolph built an empire with raw independence and street wisdom. Glock stepped into the spotlight and created a name and lane of his own. JuiceWRLD, the genre-bending prodigy, provided a beautiful archive of vulnerability mixed with melody. Cousins that made their legacy last in a fast-moving world. Dolph and Juice are no longer with us, but Glock is. What's he gonna make next? Only time will tell. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like. If you learned something new, share the video for others to learn too. If you have any thoughts, suggestions, or recommendations, put them in the comments. Visit the website and cop something to embrace your spark for knowledge. Keep up with Kalyan Wire between the videos through Reddit, Discord, Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, linked in the description below. Become a member of the channel for behind-the-scenes content, input on possible content, and badges depending on your time as a member. Thanks for plugging in. I hope you picked up something new at least, and more is in the works, but for now, it's time to unplug. Much love.